When your partner is stressed or in a bad mood, does it activate overthinking or over nurturing in you? This is Shauna White, Heartfelt Intimacy Coach, particularly focusing today on anxious reactions in relationship and how we can unravel those so that they do not damage our relationship with our partner. Because anxious reactions often put pressure on our partner and stress out the relationship, which is a real drag because they also stress us out if we're the one having the anxious reactions. And it's a common struggle that is very fixable. So that's why I am focusing on that. I have myself experienced both anxious patterns and avoidant patterns. And for myself, I see these in the present as present moment dynamics more than as ways that we are stuck being, or that are ways that are ingrained in us because of early wounds or deep wounds, right? I think that we have more freedom to shift, but there's a reason why I think that, and I'm going to reveal that as we go along. So this characteristic or this dynamic of when your partner is stressed or in a bad mood, if that sends you for a loop, that's very common, particularly particularly in these anxious reaction patterns. Even if it's not about you, right? It feels like it. It's like you can feel the energy of your partner when things feel warm and connected. And then when they go through something, that warm, connected feeling isn't there. And that difference is very stressful. Anything that creates that difference is very stressful. But even if you can see that they're upset about something that's not about you, it still feels like the way that their energy went missing means that I'm not lovable. I did something wrong. Where did you go? Why are you leaving me? And it also activates, speaking from experience, it also activates this feeling like, okay, I got to do something about this. How can I connect with them again? How can I make them more loving and warm again towards me? However, right, it can either go to overthinking, like what did I do wrong, all that kind of thing. Or what was more common for me is that it can go to over nurturing. And so for me, like a relationship that I was in, I was off balance almost the whole time. But there were beautiful moments, and the reason I was in that relationship was because I felt a deeper sense of connection with him intimately than I had ever experienced before. And it was making sense of sexuality for me for the first time in my life. And so I really felt like I needed to be with this person. He was, we could say he was very avoidant. He felt like he needed the emotional comfort that I gave him, but he also had misgivings about being with me because there were elements of what he wanted or what he thought he wanted that were not present with me. Like he wanted to be with an artist so that he could talk about his art in a certain way. And anyway, so I suppose from his perspective, there were compatibility issues. From my perspective, I was like, that stuff doesn't matter. So anyway, we had a very back and forth relationship for a very long time. But what would happen is that we would connect in this really lovely way, and then he would go distant, and that would stress me out, and I would try not to project my stress in my communication towards him. This is the struggle that attachment styles calls anxious, right? So I used to feel there were times when he would go through something stressful and it wasn't about me. He wasn't saying that he was pushing me away, but I felt like he was retracting into his own space and kind of using whatever the stress was like a shield to keep me out. And I don't know that he actually was, but that's what it felt like. And so what I did was I would try to nurture him in any way that I could. I would figure out any possible way that I could nurture him. And I was on the surface, you know, I am a good person. So this is one of the things, like, if you've been hanging around with me, you know that I will talk about control dynamics. And it was really, really hard for me to see my own control dynamics because my vision of what I want in my life is all about freedom and love and honesty and integrity. And so the way that I thought about myself as I was trying to nurture him was that I just felt like I was trying to be loving. But when I took a closer look at what was going on under the surface, I was feeling shut out from him, and I was looking for a way to connect. And I was trying to nurture him so that I could give to him to open up a connection where I could feel love with him again, right? So there was a element inside my my movement that was needy, and that is factual. As a relationship coach now, this is what I help people unwind, so you can clean up the communication and connection dynamics in your relationship so that the other person doesn't feel like they're under pressure from the way that you're trying to connect with them. When you're in a good relationship, well, the example I'm giving, I wasn't in such a good relationship. It had good things about it, but it was not. I'm grateful for that experience, and I'm grateful for the lessons it gave me. Very, very, very grateful for the lessons it gave me. And I'm grateful that I've moved on from that experience, because that wasn't the right match. He was right. It took me about 10 years to figure it out. But anyway, I learned so much about how in that relationship, I learned so much about how we compensate for the way we don't feel connected inside by trying to connect with our partner. And that puts pressure on our partner, and that will push them away. So when we can rebalance inside ourselves and come to our interactions, our connection, and our communication with our partner in a way that is free from those subtle pressures underneath the surface, then our partner can actually feel free to show up for the relationship that without feeling controlled or pressured. And then that's when you get to find out what your relationship is capable of. But you got to find how to remove those pressures first. And anyway, so here's why I see attachment styles as more about present dynamics than about wound patterns, even though wounds obviously factor in. I do see that this can change fairly quickly and fairly, I want to say fairly easily, but sometimes we do have to confront those wounds, and that can be pretty intense sometimes. But Okay. So we can look at those wounds and we can try to understand how those wounds work. And that is very beneficial, but it's not enough to heal those wounds and set us free from the emotional patterns that they create. What I found in my own journey was that I needed to know what I could do instead. What my my wound told me. So my wound was my mom passed away just before I turned 4, and she stayed with me in spirit for 1 year, where she was communicating with me, which I don't remember, but my family shared with me when they discovered it and how they discovered it. And then she told me just before I turned 5 that she was going to leave and that she wouldn't be back. I don't remember if she said she wouldn't be back or she couldn't be back, but it was the same difference to me. What that meant to me was she loves me, but she's busy and I don't matter. And so that was the deep wound inside me, the understanding that I had about why unconditional love left. And everybody, we all have our own story about why unconditional love left. Where did it go? What happened? What was wrong with us? What made it happen? But our story around that is that's something we need to face. But the way that it actually gets shifted is when we can connect with unconditional love again. I was trying to do that through my relationships. I thought if I anchor into the man that I'm with and try to feel love with him, he's going to be the source. And then he'll do the same thing with me. He'll anchor into me and that'll be great. But it doesn't actually work that way. What ends up happening when we connect with our partner like they are the source of love and they do the same with us is that the relationship becomes fraught with control dynamics. It is just the nature of, if I see this person out there as my source of love, then I need them to do things in a way that makes me comfortable so that I can continue to feel loved. And then if they want to do something that's a little different than the way I see what's comfortable and what love looks like, then either they're up a creek without a paddle because they're not allowed to do that, or I'm up a creek without a paddle because they do it anyway and I feel hurt. And that's just the way it goes, even if both people have the best intentions and love each other to the moon and back. If we see each other as the source of love, those dynamics are always going to be present. So what actually changed things for me, that like opened the bird cage and I flew out from this cage of control dynamics, was when I, number one, learned how to open a direct experiential connection with divine love energy in the core of my being. This is not an idea. This is not a visualization. This is a way of going inside that is natural to us to connect with the original source of love energy, which we can only connect to in the core of our being, because that's where our awareness equipment is for feeling that energy. When we look out at our partner, we're using different awareness equipment, and we can't actually connect with this source love energy that way. So that's the first thing. I learned how to do that, and it's natural, but we're not taught how to do that. Our entire society is built on not knowing how to do that, and the spin out that comes from not knowing how to do that, the unlovable feelings, the unworthiness and the neediness that naturally comes from feeling that inner connection to love missing. Even if we never knew how to open it, we know deep down that it's missing. Somehow love is missing, and that's why we feel unlovable deep down. The second thing that fell into place for me that changed things was that I learned how to make that inner connection the basis for how I approach my intimate partnership relationship. It took me time to unravel that piece, because I learned how to connect with the energy of divine love, but then I would be like, oh, there's the guy. And I'd throw divine love off into the corner. And that's normal, because my subconscious was like, hey, we're going to work on this emotional wound with this guy here. And divine love, I mean, that's irrelevant. That has nothing to do with the wound. Not only that, my subconscious couldn't really trust divine love. So there's a lot of things to work out. But it's beautiful when you do work it out. And so this is why I have hope for quick change in transcending anxious reaction dynamics in a relationship, because yes, there are wounds that factor into those dynamics. If you only know how to look at the wounds and understand the wounds, it's not really going to change anything. The understanding helps, because then you can be more of an observer when the patterns actually crop up in the moment. And that can make it easier to manage in your relationship experiences. But to actually heal those wounds, we have to be able to restore that unconditional love experience. And where that unconditional love experience actually comes from is not from our partner. It's not from our relationship. It's not even from thinking well of ourselves or treating ourselves well. It's not from having good beliefs. It is from connecting with that energy of divine love, that source energy. And that's why I teach people how to connect with that energy, because once you learn that as how you come to your relationship, it totally shifts things, so that now you can sit in this place where you know that you are lovable, because on the inside of your being, you feel love. You feel this energy of love, like you are made of love. And from that place, you can be relaxed in your relationship, and you can give, not the way I was giving, where I was nurturing in order to try to reestablish a connection with my partner, but just actually feeling how the energy of love is moving inside you to express love to your partner. And for me, in my relationship now, having this stability inside myself, it gives so much freedom. It's interesting. So my partner did not know how to be. My partner hadn't encountered anything like this before, I think, which is normal because it's not widely practiced. People don't know about it yet, but I think everybody should know about it, because it's so, there's so much freedom and love and connection when we can come to a relationship this way. This is what I help people with. But anyway, what was I going to say about my partner? He loved it. I didn't try to teach him or anything like that. I just shared with him how I want to show up. And he liked it. And he feels so much freedom too. And he feels so completely free to be himself. And I feel free to be myself with him. And that's what we get when we can show up in a place that's grounded inside the love inside ourselves, this divine love connection inside ourselves. Grounded in that space, we both feel free to be ourselves, because we don't have to fit into each other's definitions of what love is supposed to look like. because we're both anchoring into that source energy feeling of love as how we show up in our relationship. So, so for you today, if you relate to the struggles that I was discussing in this video, I invite you to consider, what is it about your partner that feels like a breath of fresh air from or a saving grace from the landscape of heartbreak that you've previously experienced. And and consider that in the light of what healing means for you, right? So that you can start to wrap your mind around what you feel like you want to embody that would be a healed experience for you, as compared with needing it from your partner. I'd love to, I'm just inviting you to try that. It's kind of a deeper exercise than I usually offer people who are not in a container of support with me, because when you're in a container of support with me, I will hold you in a steadiness of love energy and walk you gently through the exploration of your wounds and what you see in your partner, and how all that works, and how all that adds up to the next step in a gentle healing journey. So I guess I'd like to say, if you're doing this and you're not in a container with me, then I would like to say, go gently with yourself and just explore what feels uplifting to explore. I'm trying to describe how you can explore this in an uplifting way, so that the feeling of anchoring into your partner and needing your partner to be a certain way shifts a little bit to a place of self-discovery of what are the characteristics of lovingness that you could, that your heart desires, and that you could grow towards learning how to rebalance inside yourself, so that those things are a natural part of your reality and not something that you're missing and needing from your partner. Does that make sense? If you're connecting with this, then just put something in the comments, like we will just say hashtag self-love if you're connecting with this. I would just love to know. All right. Upcoming news, I'm going to be doing a challenge soon for how to stop anxious reactions from sabotaging a good relationship. So if that interests you, it's going to be 5 days of teachings, trainings, exercises, and I'm looking forward to supporting you that way. So if that interests you, put hashtag challenge in the comments so I make sure that I follow up with you so that you know when the challenge starts. All right. Take care. Have a great day.